All right. All right, guys. Thank you so much for being here. So, this is Depression Proof Your Life. Welcome to Depression Proof Your Life Live. It's a space where honest conversation about mental health, mental wellness, recovery, resilience. And here we're going to explore conversation, mindset, and how environment all work together to move us from silence to strength. I am Marion Mills, and I am the creator of DPYL. I actually created it out of my own journey of mental illness, addiction, and recovery. These conversations will break stigmas, help us find support, and remind you that you're not alone. So, thank you so much for being here. Please help me join our first guest, Eddie Randle, journalist and storyteller with nearly 18 years in the industry. Currently, the AM morning anchor on NBC Connecticut, his greatest accomplishment, coming up on 7 years sobriety. Congratulations with that, Eddie.
Thank
That
you.
is November 3rd. You're passionate about health and wellness and just a healthy lifestyle. Also certified as a spin instructor and had your first marathon. And of course, it also says that you are actually very mindful of physically how how physically and mentally and emotionally how all three of those parts play a major part in taking care of yourself. And we are
Absolutely.
actually joined by your sister, Monica Randall, who is a licensed professional clinical counselor. She's actually the founder of Mental Wealth Works. Mental Wealth Works is also a partner of Depression Proof Your Life. Mental Wealth Works provides virtual therapy for individuals residing in California, Georgia, and Texas. Monica acknowledges that environment, culture, and experiences shape a person's mindset and behavior. She serves as a mental health subject matter expert on social media and spaces of influence. And she wants to see overall mental wellness and mental improvement with the emphasis on mindset and emotional well being. Thank you guys so much for being here. I really appreciate it. How are you guys doing today?
Good,
Doing
thank
good.
you.
Doing really good. Thank you.
Yeah.
Doing good. Happy to
Good,
be
good.
here.
Good. Definitely glad to have you. Of course, I don't know if you know how many of our viewers may have seen it, but you guys were on the show on a previous show with Building Doors. So definitely glad to have you back. So let's get started with the questions. Now, of course, the first question I want to chime in, it's actually for the both of you, and either one of you can actually answer. You can answer. How did communication, or sometimes maybe the lack thereof, actually shape Eddie in your recovery?
I feel like I've become a better communicator just through recovery. I lacked communication. It's funny because in my business, we always say that we work in the field of communication, although a lot of us fail to do it successfully or accurately or correctly. And it's funny, that's just how like my life was. And it was getting into recovery. And because I did recovery, I entered into recovery about 3 or 4 months after I had already started my therapy journey. I think
Mhm.
working with those hand in hand, I was able to see like how I really wasn't communicating. And I wasn't
Yes.
able to communicate with other people because I really wasn't communicating well with myself. And I would just say it's really shaped my recovery because now I know how to communicate. And it's not just because I'm in recovery, it's also because I'm in therapy. A lot of people don't like when you go to 12-step meetings like I do and share about both of them, but they go hand in hand, especially when it deals with me. And I feel like being able to walk along this recovery journey and also be in my own personal journey of therapy and being a better person, that those two things together have made me a better communicator.
Awesome. Thank you. I appreciate that. Monica, how would you say that you answering the same question when it relates to your clients?
I'm going to speak for myself and for my
Okay.
clients.
I appreciate that.
But
Yeah.
yeah, so Eddie said something awesome where he said, I learned how to communicate with myself or for myself. So that internal communication is important, right? Before we can have that healthy external communication with anyone else. And so it's
Mhm.
funny, I had this thought a while ago, but it just popped back up for me that I used to be, and Eddie remembers this, like people thought I was mute growing up. Like I would not talk. I was like a mixture of shy and just also not interested in having most conversations.
I like that.
It's so funny that fast forward today, or even some years back, that I use my voice for everything. Therapy,
Yes.
to help other people, voice acting, also in writing. And I would have never thought, and that just goes to show you, like even biblical characters, how God can take a person who doesn't
Mhm.
seemingly have these qualities and then turn them into whatever he needs them to be to use them. In communication, I've grown from not talking at all to talking a lot. And I think what Eddie spoke about, that internal voice,
Yeah.
really made that difference, going from poor self-esteem into having confidence. And not saying that there's confidence every day, but it's something that you're always working on to make sure you're telling yourself these true things, these helpful things, these honest things about yourself, so that it comes out in your real life. And I teach that with my clients as well, as we're combating negative self-talk.
Right.
What's true, what's positive, what's helpful, let's
Mhm.
focus on that. And in relational conflict, I always teach and talk about, if your intention is pure, if your intention is good and it's out of
Mm.
love and your delivery reflects that, then you can only hope that the message is received that way. And of course, people hear sometimes with their trauma brain, and then there's people that hear with their healed brain. And so,
That's good.
yeah, if people hear with their trauma brain, you can't really be responsible for how they hear that and how they perceive it. But as long as your intent, your intention, and your delivery is pure and out of love, then that's doing the right thing on your end.
Mhm.
So in communication, I think those are the two major points: your intention, your delivery, and that internal communication.
Yeah, both of you definitely touched on something. Eddie, I appreciate the fact that, especially with you being in the career that you have and successful in your career, that a lot of times people just assume that, yes, of course, you're a communicator, but it is a difference in the way that we communicate, maybe personally and professionally. And when Monica, when you talked about biblically, I related so much with basically what both of you said. Of course, I created this platform because of my own struggles with anxiety and depression. But when people talk to me just on a regular basis, like the way that I speak as a voice artist, that's not how I speak every day. I'm like I'm literally just babbling. And so when people actually hear me, a lot of times when I share people with people what I've done, they're like, I would have never, I say, yeah, because when I'm talking, I'm like, what did I say? So yes, I really had that mindset for a long time getting into voiceover. God, how am I going to be a voice artist? But I can't even talk. I can't even formulate my own thoughts sometimes.
Mhm.
So I appreciate how you both touched on that. So, of course, with the framework with Depression Proof Your Life, the three elements that I know I recognize helped me. If you both of you could actually speak on how your environment actually helps or hinders, because for me, I know that I realized that it was actually keeping me stuck, even though I was no longer in a dark mindset and I was no longer drinking. My environment actually showed I was still living like I was depressed. If you guys could actually speak on that as well.
Yeah. Do you want me to go
Do
first,
you want to
Eddie?
start with that one?
Mhm.
Yeah, go ahead.
Okay. So Pastor and Dr. Darius Daniels, the same person. He just has
Okay.
those two titles, Pastor,
Mhm.
Doctor. He said something about, if you're the only person in your circle that is educating or teaching or who has this growth mindset, then you're in a cage, you're not in a circle. And so
Mm.
that is what I'm reminded of when you ask this question.
Say that again?
So if you're the only person in your circle that has the growth mindset, and I don't know if he used those words or a different term, but if you're the only one, then you're not in a circle, you're in a cage. And
Wow.
so, in other words, you need to surround yourself with people who are helping you grow, even people that are smarter than you, and smarter as in maybe they have more information on a particular subject or area or field, so they can help you grow. People that are pushing you into that versus people that are going to not stimulate you, that are going to keep you where you are.
Yeah.
And so that's what I think of when I hear that. You just have to, even if you have not found your people yet, those people that are going to push you and promote you,
Yeah.
you are better off by yourself learning on your own
Mm.
versus staying in that circle where people have a stuck mindset. So you really have to be intentional about who you spend your time and your energy with,
Yeah.
whether it be at home, at school, or in the community. And if you're trying to heal from something too, it's another. I love listening to Dr. Darius Daniels. He said something else the other day, or I think it was a previous sermon that I rewatched. He said, if you continue to be around the person that hurt you, there's no way to heal. So
That
that
part.
person,
Yeah.
yeah, like you're just essentially picking at the scab.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
It really just hit me there because I'm like, sometimes we're scared to shake up our circle, our people that we hang around. We're like, oh,
Yes.
I've known this person for 20 years, whatever. But that's why you're still unhealed or still where you are, because
Can't break
you're
free.
yeah, you're not shifting that.
Yeah.
Like you're not breaking away from that. So I think that's important to be intentional. And there's nothing selfish or wrong with making those adjustments as it's necessary for your life. For me, anybody that I have distanced myself from or completely let go of, it's not personal as far as I still love you. And the love is never lost. The love feels the same as if we first met. However, just because I love you doesn't mean we have to stay in close communication or interaction with each other.
Yeah. Yeah. That's good. Wow.
I agree. A lot of great things right there. It's funny because she mentioned one of the things that she said. It reminded me of something that my first sponsor, told me in my 12-step program, and he said is that you can't get well and stay well if you keep going back to the place that made you sick.
That's right.
And I had so many different times where the bulk of my, not the bulk, but a lot of my active addiction was when I was in Tulsa, Oklahoma. And when I moved to Denver, I got sober, and then some opportunities came up where I could have went back to Tulsa. Later on, some opportunities came up that I could have went back to Denver. And I always remember what my first sponsor said is that you can't get or stay well if you keep returning to places that made you sick. Like you think, oh, I've grown, so now I can go, because a piece of my mind wants to go back and show that environment, that atmosphere, those
That's
people,
good, Eddie.
that I'm
Yeah.
now better. And that's not actually better. That's taking a step back, either into addiction or really just back into sickness. And I really feel like when it comes to the environment piece, it doesn't have to be direct. My sister is a part of my environment, and we do not live in the same state. My best friend now lives 2 hours away from me up in New York, but before she didn't. My other best friend lives in Louisiana, and my other one lives in Texas. So we've all live in different places, but I call them my true friends because they understand. And once I got sober, they stayed. And there's nothing against people who didn't stay. They just let me know that they were people who were in my life for a season, and that season has passed.
That's right.
And so I just think about that, because I think sometimes when we say like your environment, your atmosphere, our minds are so quick to say, oh, it's where it is right now in this moment physically. But my environment expands to several different states, because those are the people that I consider to be my family. My sister Monica is my blood family, but she's also part of my extended family because she's my friend. And then I have these friends who are life friends who are extended family, and they're just not with me. So I feel like that the environment just can be beyond just that, maybe a 10, 20, 100-mile radius of where you are.
No, I appreciate both of you for saying that. Eddie, I have a question for you. When you say your first sponsor, is it because you moved, or was it, and I'm asking this question for anyone that may have a sponsor and are thinking about, or maybe they feel like it's time that they need a new one. What caused you to get another sponsor, or was it because of the move or something else?
It's funny because that was actually because he moved. My first sponsor stayed my sponsor for 2 years in my 12-step program. And then he got a job in Florida, and him and his wife and kids moved. And I've had sponsors who will say, we can still do Zoom, we can still do over the phone. He is more of an in-person kind of person. So he was like, and he believes that recovery works one-on-one, and it works when you're physically with people. It works better that way. So he'll always say, if you need me, call me. But so for the first like 3-4 months that he left, we still communicated via phone, but he really pushed and encouraged me to get another physical sponsor. And then I got one, then I got the job in Kansas. So when I got to Kansas, I got a sponsor. And he was my sponsor for 2.5 of the 3 years that I was there. And he was the same way. He was like, you and I can talk, but you need to get out there to Connecticut and get a sponsor. And so I now have a sponsor out here.
That's awesome. Congratulations. I appreciate you for explaining that, because again, for the people that are watching, it just makes me think about, for example, when I got into voiceover, I never auditioned because I was waiting for someone to tell me it's time to audition. So I appreciate it. It shows that you had a sponsor that was about his business and making sure that you stayed on track to actually tell you, because sometimes people can have unhealthy attachments. So the fact that he said, no, you need to get out and find a sponsor, that's awesome, that he didn't try to hold on to you.
And I'll say, I also think that is part of the sponsor and sponsee relationship, of them knowing each other and understanding each other. My sponsors also all know that I am a very physical person. I pay attention when I am face to face. I'm paying attention now, but if I'm listening to church online, I'm doing dishes, I'm doing laundry, and I'm like separating. So they know if Eddie is going to stay focused on his program, I need to stress to him that he needs to physically have a sponsor, because even when COVID happened, that was really rough because I didn't really connect with virtual.
I appreciate that. And again, both of you have already touched on the mindset piece. And what resonated with me, especially during COVID, I remember I thought to myself, I'm going to say this carefully. My depression, right, was happy that I could isolate myself, right? But knew that it was so dangerous because, like you said, that connection was lost. And even though I was going to work, because of I was an essential worker, so I still was working, but when that isolation, my depression was like, yes, I don't want to be around anyone anyway, but that was like the worst thing. Yeah, I certainly can connect with having that disconnect and still needing that connection.
Can I add, Marion, to
absolutely, please do.
The environment and mindset piece? Like Eddie was talking about community and how it extends to just people outside of your like close proximity in different states or whatever. God has really defined community for me differently than I've ever thought of in all of my years. I've always had this picture of, because I was praying more recently in the last few years about community specifically. And I'm like, send me these people, send me people that are going to help me grow in this area, spiritually, especially. And I thought it was going to be this group of people that were specific and they would always be those same people. And so I pictured literally a circle of people that I was going to call friends. And God redefined that. He was like, yeah, no, I'm going to send you whoever you need when you need them. And so these people are strangers. These people show up. They're different every day. Some of them is just for that day. It's just for that little moment that I might interact with them in the grocery store or wherever. Or there's people that I've known for years that maybe we didn't talk as much, but now we're talking more often. There's people that speak life into me just for that moment. Or it's just, to me, it's mind blowing, like how it just looks so different. And if you have this smaller frame around what you think community is supposed to look like, you're going to discount all of these different people that show up in your life.
These little interactions, right?
Yeah. So just in my recommendation for everybody is just to open your eyes, your mind, and your ears to where God is showing you, like, I want you to connect with this person. I'm going to send you this person, or where he's going to send you for somebody else.
I love that. Eddie, I saw you smiling. Were you going to add to that?
No, Monica is one of those people who, she's my big sister, but she is someone that I truly look up to. So when I hear her speak, I just feel like the light that she's talking about, like I can see that light. And it's so funny because she mentioned at the beginning of this conversation how people thought she was a mute and she was really quiet. She's probably the most vocal out of everyone in the family now. And that wasn't the case when we were younger. And so I feel like even if she thought that, it's changed, like it's switched, because now my mom, my dad, my other sister, Chanel, myself, and all three of our nieces, we all look to Monica for advice. And we're almost like, even if we're about to do something, we're like, I wonder what Monica would think about this. And we'll call and we'll ask her. So even though as a child, maybe like it was like she felt that way, or maybe we even treated her that way, but now like she is the voice for the family.
Wow, that's beautiful. I love that. I love
Funny
that.
thing is, Eddie's therapist, he'll tell me, he'll be like, she said, what is, I'd be curious to hear what Monica had to
What
say.
Monica has to say.
And his former co-anchor, Julia, she'll say the same thing. What did Monica say?
That is beautiful.
I
I
think
love
it's so
that.
funny.
Yes, I love that.
But you know what, Marion? One thing, and it's funny, but it's also very true about me too, is that my nieces and my sister, all of them know, don't come to me and say there's a problem unless you're ready for me to do something. Because
Look, that's a perfect segue because, of course, I have a question in regards to that, because some of my questions for my guest are coming from my own experience and just knowing that someone else may have this question. But I wanted to know, like, how was the dynamic in watching your brother go through what he was going through and you having the knowledge and the education and probably working with clients in the same way? So I have that question for you. How did that shape you? And also, Eddie, the opposite for you. Were you wanting your sister to do something as a sister or as a therapist that she didn't? And let me just explain that question a little bit, because sometimes people get upset. Is Monica, you're a therapist. You can help me. So if you guys could speak on that a little bit, maybe it could help someone that may be in a similar situation.
the first thing that comes to mind is the way Eddie tells his story about getting help in the first place is that his friends were intervened and they said, you need to get some help, because they were right there. They knew what was happening. A lot of things he'll tell you I didn't know until later, until he's, and I'm like, oh my gosh, that happened. But I think, to be honest too, if I did notice, okay, when we're on the phone, I hear this, we talk about this all the time. And he's laughing.
He's already laughing.
And I would hear this, the glass and the ice in the glass.
The ice, yeah.
On the phone, and I'm thinking, oh, he has a drink. And so in my mind, I'm like, okay, this is continuous and it's during the day. Honestly, I think I should have, and wish that I could have or should have said something sooner, because while I'm having these thoughts, I feel, because I'm his sister, not the therapist, but his sister,
Sure.
I didn't want to trigger him. And so I'm like, I don't know if anything's going on. I'm curious, but I don't want to say anything
and be wrong, right? Yeah.
So I still struggle with that a little bit, because when I hear him tell this story, and I'm like, but I give myself grace too, because I wasn't there. I didn't know some of the things, but at the same time, if I could give anybody advice as a family member or a friend, if you even suspect that somebody might be struggling with something, or they're doing things that might be leading them down a path of destruction, or like just they're not headed towards their goals. They're headed in an opposite direction. I would just ask a question. And I think that's the safest way to go about it, is to not make a statement or make an assumption or make a judgment, but to ask a question. How are you doing in this area? How do you feel? And ask questions just to understand if there is something more going on.
Yeah.
And then if you find that there is, that's when you can maybe offer support or resources that you know of. But yeah, I feel like I was tiptoeing a little bit.
I appreciate that. I really do appreciate that. Eddie, could you speak on that as well?
Yeah, and it's so funny because I think people's interpretations of what are just so different, because it's what they experience or what they remember. But Monica honestly was the first person to address my addiction. She didn't push it, but she did say, "Oh, you're drinking a lot," or it would be her tone, and be careful, like, I'm going out and I've been drinking at home, and then when we're back in Texas, and we had like minor conversations about it in passing, but never really got into it. I think that once I got into recovery, Monica showed up for me, and I knew that she was a therapist, and she knew I was also already in therapy, but she showed up in a way as my sister. And I think that people used to call us twins when we were younger, because we're only 15 months apart, and we were basically glued at the hip. And then as you get older, middle school, elementary school, high school, middle school, and then we were in different schools, you just grow apart. And then I think that we came back together more when, I don't know if it was because I was in recovery, but I think that I definitely needed family. And I think Monica my family has been there, but I think Monica, out of everybody, has showed the most interest and not, hey, did you go to a meeting today? But really knowing what the meetings are, what they entail. Monica actually came to a meeting in Denver with me.
That's awesome. Yeah.
Maybe even in Wichita, I can't remember, but I know you came in Denver, and it's just really nice to know that there's somebody who wants to fully understand. And I think she also wants to understand because of the field that she's in, knowing that her brother is in recovery. That's and knowing that she's in this mental health field, it's going to help her in turn be able to work with someone who may be going with the same thing. But to answer your question, I think that I wanted her to show up as my sister, which she did. And I needed her to show up with those therapeutic kind of lessons. At this point, I know now, but I didn't know then. Yes. And I think that she showed up in that way, but I didn't know that's what I needed. But I did need someone to check on me, and I needed someone to hold me accountable, because I do feel like, as I said earlier, we all look up to Monica, and I try to make sure that we don't put so much pressure on her, because we all do like rely on her. But at the same time, knowing that she's talking to me and she's asking about meetings, and I'm telling the truth that I'm actually going to meetings and showing up in my recovery, and knowing that she's proud of me, it was also making me say, okay, you can keep going. I want to do it for myself, but I also want to show up for my family who wants me to be able to show up for them.
I love that. Yeah, that's awesome. Thank you so much. Eddie, this question is for you. How do you balance challenges that you have from your past, as well as just everyday challenges now? How do you actually deal with that in maintaining your recovery? And of course, you're coming up on your seventh year, is that right? Seventh year anniversary. But again, I know it's one day at a time. So can you just speak to any daily habits and routines that you actually that you try to be mindful of to keep you grounded?
It's definitely meetings. I work a 12-step program, and I try to go to 4 meetings a week. I also work out. So like I said, I used to be a spin instructor, but now I'm part of a spin studio here, a cycle bar in West Hartford. And so I go there probably 5 times a week. So I have like my days where it's like Monday, Wednesday, Thursday, Saturday, Sunday, spin. And then I go to meetings on Tuesdays, Fridays, Saturdays, and Sundays. And so that's something that I keep a schedule, and I keep a routine. And my therapist, I also, weekly therapy probably is going to start to move back to bi-weekly. It's needed to be weekly over the last couple of months. But having the therapist and working that, my therapist has me working and doing this meditation, which I'm supposed to do twice a day, but I only do once. But I've been working on it, and that actually helps my mindset for the day. Yeah. And I feel like that keeps me focused. So it's just a mixture of things, but it's also remembering the past. Like the past repeats itself, and you're able to show up and react in a different way than you reacted the first time. I went through a breakup when I left Wichita and when I left Denver and moved to Wichita. And I went through another breakup just now recently as I've come here. My partner of 2.5 years decided that they couldn't move to Connecticut, and that's okay. But that whole process, and Monica knows why she's shaking her head, has been it's been process. And but still remembering and having people like in my environment, my family, my tribe, Monica and my friends tell me, you are handling this situation 100 times better than you handled it before, which is funny because it's actually hard. It feels harder this time because it was a longer relationship. But I feel like just that right there, being able to know that life can happen, and it can happen and hit me even harder than it hit me last time. And I can still navigate through it with my routine and with the things that I know that I need to do. And honestly, with all of that, with the change in moving to Connecticut, with the change of a new sober group, with the change of a new relationship, with the change of not having a relationship, not one time did I think about picking up a drink or a drug. And so that's where I go back to and I say, oh, that's where it's working. Yeah. It's everything together is working together. And that's how I know that is that inner growth that you don't always see when you look in the mirror, because I look the same to me day by day.
That's right. Yes.
But when somebody reminds me, remember what happened? Remember when you were in the same place 3 years ago? Look how you're handling it now. And then I'm like, okay, then I can keep putting one foot in front of the other and moving through.
Eddie, you tapped on so many different things. And of course, when you said everything works, of course, my mind went to Romans 8:28. Everything works for the good of them that love the Lord. But I appreciate the fact that you actually touched on that community and reminding, and even though you might not have seen it yourself, you have this community around you that actually look at how far you've come. Look at what you've done. Look at where you are now. And also the importance of that daily routine. That's something that I struggle with, actually, just having a routine. I can be consistent for a few days and then fall off. So kudos to you for being consistent. But I have a piggyback off of that. Has anyone, or have you ever thought that you've traded one addiction for the other, being fitness now? Has anyone ever said that to you, or do you feel that yourself, that I'm leaning over, that you've traded one addiction for a bad addiction for a healthy one?
It's so funny because I was just talking to a new friend and they asked me that very same question.
Wow.
This was just yesterday.
Oh, wow.
And we were talking about this because my first addiction is food. And before drugs and alcohol, I overate. I was an obese kid and an obese adult. I was 430 pounds at my heaviest and had gastric bypass. November will be 18 years. And so then fast forward 11 years later, I get into recovery. And I think that now that I have a balance, I guess there is, you trade one addiction for the other was food, then it went to alcohol and drugs, and now it's a healthy lifestyle. But also, Monica could probably agree to this, I think I'm addicted to my routine. If anything strays off of what I am used to, what I need, and it's because I know that this routine works for me.
Works for you, yes.
So when something doesn't happen the way I plan it, it sends me in a tailspin. And I've been able to be aware and address it. And so I'm trying to be better at it, just to be like, okay, that's okay. I'm actually listening to this audiobook called Let Them. And I just started.
Yes.
Addicted. After the first chapter, the first 15 minutes, I was driving home from New Haven getting my haircut yesterday, and I finally turned it on. And I was just in my car and I was like, this is just the beginning. This was the forward.
I had the same thought. Like, let them. Let them. Like, if that's how they think, let them. Yes, it's so simple but so powerful.
So it's all of those things working together. But and I talked to Monica about that too, and she's helped me with that, about having the routine, but not letting the routine control you. Because I think that's what I let do. I'm like, this has worked for me, so now I have to do this. If I don't get up at this time, if I don't leave, it's to the point where if I don't walk out the door by 3:20, or 3:15, I'm annoyed. And now
I'm sorry. And just to remind our viewers, when you say 3:20, you're talking about AM because of what time you have to be at work, right?
Yeah, and it's more 3:10 because it takes me 10 minutes to get to work. And if I'm not in my seat or walking in the building at 3:20, I somehow feel like those 2-3 minutes have now thrown off my whole day, but they haven't. I've let that happen. And so I've been trying to work through that process of, now that I'm sober and I'm coming up on 7 years, it's okay to let things come into your day to day. And I always say I'm a spontaneous person, so I should let things spontaneously happen. And if that happens, not let it ruin my day.
Yeah.
Monica, I know that he referenced you, of course, quite a bit in the way that he answered that. Did you want to chime in on some of what he was saying, or just your own piece on that?
I think, we talk about that quite a bit. And more, there's nothing wrong with having a routine, but when it's causing you anxiety and disruption, when you're outside of that routine, that's when you know that it has control over you. And so that's what we talk about often, because we always talk about too that he has this thing with time. He'll be like, I've known this person for a year or 2 years and 2 days, and I'm like, he's literally counting. So he's focused on that part being included in the routine. So just releasing that, and one person ties into, I think, other parts of the conversation. But somebody told me the other day just really good advice, which was take it one day at a time, which I think ties into Eddie's recovery mission statement, or is that just?
It's one of them. It's kind of one of the mantras.
One of the mantras. One day at a time, because when you start to get out of control with thinking about next week or a month from now, it just really is too overwhelming. So just thinking of it like, and just being intentional about what would you like to happen in this day. And if that would be great if it does happen like that, but if it doesn't, like, you need to be ready to pivot at any time.
We're actually coming up on our time, but I enjoy talking to you both. I love how open and honest that you are. And of course, I love the relationship that you guys have. It's one of those things where I feel like even if you weren't siblings, y'all would be the best of friends anyway. But Monica, I'll start with you. Is there anything that you want to leave our viewers with that might not have been touched on or anything? Or tell them about a little bit more about wealth works. Excuse me.
Yeah, no, for sure. Yeah, Mental Wealth Works. I have the therapy website, which is www.mentalwealthworkstherapy.com. But on Instagram, I'm just providing informational, educational content. Also, I've done some interviews myself around, I like to tie in people's ministries, whatever that looks like, art, music, with mental health. And so we talk about not only what they do and how it ties to mental health, but also how they're taking care of themselves in the midst of their busy life. So you can go to Instagram, Mental Wealth Works, also YouTube. You can find the full videos there. If you're seeking therapy and you live in California, Georgia, Texas, you can reach out and look at my website, mentalwealthworkstherapy.com, or just email me. It's for more information and things like that. But the thing that I would want to stand out, I think, is something I've already mentioned, which is take things one day at a time. And if that's too much, maybe 1 hour at a time. Start with wherever you need to start it. And I think just be open to redefining things like community. And as far as communication, just going back to that, what I would like to stand out for folks is be intentional about your delivery and make sure that your intention is pure and out of love, and then deliver it accordingly.
Eddie, what about you? Is there any how would you like to wrap things up, and or maybe share something that I may not have triggered in the conversation?
I would just say it is September. It's National Recovery Month.
Yes.
If you are someone who's watching this or someone who is struggling with addiction, there are so many different resources out there, and you can easily just like search addiction recovery resources, and it will likely come up like places that are close to you. I just would stress that you're not alone, because I did for a long time feel that I was alone. And it wasn't until I got into recovery and I met strangers that I was able to see that the people who are close to me that I was pushing away have always been by my side. And I was able to reconnect with them in those relationships.
Awesome. Yeah.
I'm working on putting more stuff on my Instagram page. It's at the bottom of the screen right there under my name, My Zero Proof Life. And that is a lot of just like positive statements, a lot of stories that I've done surrounding addiction and recovery. So I would just say, I always stick by, if you see something, say something. So if you see someone struggling, like Monica said, I had people reach out to me, my friends who got me into the program and got me on the road to recovery. If you see something, say something, because a lot of times people aren't going to make that first move themselves.
That's awesome. Now, Eddie, you just reminded me of something from the last time that we interviewed. I know you said typically you usually do a segment on your morning show on recovery. Do you do one every week because of September, or is it just once a month, no matter what?
In the past, I've done it several times a month. I've done it throughout the whole month, like once a week. I'm working on putting some stuff together for where I'm at right now, because I'm still really new to the station, but I do plan on doing recovery stories throughout the year versus just in September while I'm here at NBC Connecticut.
Good for you.
And I apologize. I have this new dog that's why my arm it's trying to bite this chair, and I don't want the thing that like lifts you up. I don't want to like
yes.
down. So
what's the dog's name?
Peace, because that's what he brought me. Yeah.
I love that. I had a dog. I just had to put him down last year. He had cancer, but that's what he brought me. I got him in 2012 when he truly saved my life. Like, he really did. He saved my life. And I know my family members and friends were really concerned when he passed, because they know what he brought for me. But I thank God that I had him for 10 years. And in that 10-year time frame, became healing. So yeah, I love the name. Like they're definitely peace. But I think he's trying to tell you that you're in his chair, you in his spot.
Yeah, exactly. I'll say really quick, I got him. I didn't have a dog for a year. I had to put my dog down last September. I had her for
Okay.
11 years. Her name was Sophie.
Oh,
Ironically, and through the blessing and the powers of God, that was really hard for me. Monica actually was there and was visiting my parents and had planned a trip and brought my parents to Wichita, Kansas to visit me.
yeah.
And it happened during that time. So I had my
Oh,
family with me.
thank God. Yeah.
Yeah,
Mhm.
yeah,
That timing. Yeah.
it was the best thing to come out of a tragic situation.
Yes. That's beautiful.
And,
Thank you
and
so
now I
much for
have
sharing that. I really appreciate that.
Yeah.
Can you, is he tiny? Can you lift him up? Can you show him?
oh, he's not tiny, but he's only five. He's
He said
only
not
5
tiny.
months, so he's gonna get even bigger.
Oh.
Hi,
Oh,
peace.
Yeah,
oh my God. He has my baby's face.
yeah.
He looks
He's
like
only
my baby. He's adorable. Oh, look
he's
at
only
Pete.
Hi, peace.
5.5 months old.
Yeah,
So
he's not tiny at all, right?
no,
Yeah.
and he's already
And
like
Eddie,
35
So
pounds.
beautiful.
Eddie had Sophie during his recovery. So, like you said, your dog saved your life. Sophie was there for Eddie during a really sensitive season. And now Peace is
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah,
during this
I have to
transition.
talk to you. I have to talk to you offline because just to ask when did you decide or how did you know it was time? Because it was a year in March. So what made you know that it was time?
He literally walked and came into the station for Pet of the Week. We do Pet of the Week every Friday, and we promote people adopting with Kinetic Humane Society. And they
Yes.
kept saying, I don't think you're going to make it through Clear the Shelters, which we do during the month of August. And I was like,
Right.
I'm okay right now. Peace walked in, and I remember I took a video, and I'll send videos to my mom and to Monica. And I was like, look at this dog. And a couple of weeks later, I texted one of my friends who works at the Kinetic Humane Society, and I said, was he still there? And they ended up working it out where they held him for me because I was out of town at a conference, and I got back and I got him. But I knew when he walked into to our station that day, I was like, yeah, I think this is my dog. And
Oh, that is beautiful.
yeah.
Thank you so much for sharing that. I really appreciate that. That's awesome. That is a beautiful way to actually close. Thank you guys so much. I really appreciate it. Until next time. Bye-bye.
Yes, thank you so much. Bye.